I was turning 64 that day, and my heart was awash in sadness and memories, as if every breath was a cry for the past. All I wanted was a simple, intimate meal with my son Bruno, his wife Iria, and two old neighbors, as if at that moment my whole world wanted to collapse into the warmth of their love. Nothing special, just a potato omelet, homemade croquettes, and an almond tart I had painstakingly prepared the previous evening. I laid a linen tablecloth on the dining room table and brought out the fine blue floral porcelain I had inherited from my mother. The house smelled of rosemary and lemon. I was tired, but satisfied. I felt that for once everything was balanced. Bruno arrived half an hour late. Iria was wearing a very expensive beige linen dress. They brought a store-bought cake, a golden candle, and a gift bag with shiny paper that looked like it had been brought from a shop window. They hugged me exuberantly and wished me a happy return to the sun. I noticed a strange energy in the air, a kind of excitement disguised as celebration. After the first toast, while we were still serving the dishes, Bruno stood up and tapped his glass with his spoon. Everyone fell silent. I looked at him strangely, my napkin still on my lap. "We want to use this moment to share some beautiful news," he said with a big smile. "Iria and I are going to be parents." There was applause, shouts of joy, hugs. Iria took the gift out of the bag, a little onesie with the words, "Best grandma in the world." He put it in my hands as if I knew exactly what it meant. I smiled awkwardly. "There's more," she said in her sweet, almost sing-song voice. "Since we'll soon be 3, we've decided to move to a place with more space. And Abelina, what better place than your house? Thank you for allowing us to start this journey here." I didn't understand. I opened my mouth, but no words came out. Bruno was still praising my generosity when someone shouted, "Wow!" The crowd applauded. I nodded mechanically as heat rose to my neck. I felt an emptiness that was indescribable. The walls of my house, my dining room, my paintings suddenly, they were no longer mine. Iria looked at me lovingly, and I couldn't understand how I was being stripped naked in front of everyone, as if I had given my consent at some point I don't remember. I didn't sleep a wink that night. I swear, I was trying to sleep, but every time I closed my eyes, I saw myself in my own dining room, surrounded by the applause of others, holding a baby bodysuit and Iria's smile plastered on my forehead. I kept tossing and turning in bed until the sheets were tangled together, as if trying to stop me. I got up in the dark and went to the kitchen to make Linden tea, but even hot water was not soothing me. I sat at the table with my face in my hands, breathing heavily. Then I remembered the dresser in the sewing room. In the third drawer, between old letter envelopes and recipe books, I had a blue binder filled with papers I had never fully reviewed. I took it to the living room, opened it with shaking hands, and began flipping through documents, and yellowed papers. Nothing seemed relevant until I found a document I had signed 2 years earlier. Authorization of power of attorney in favor of Bruno Camarina Barragan for temporary management of estate decisions in the event of certified medical incapacity. I immediately remembered the situation. Pneumonia, a public hospital. I was admitted for 4 days. Bruno came to see me worriedly and asked me to sign for insurance coverage in case something happened to me. I had a very high fever. I didn't read anything. I signed without thinking. When I called Noelia, my heart was pounding. I told her everything quietly, as if she could hear everything at home. She was not surprised. She told me she knew an honest and straightforward lawyer, Marta Pedraza, who worked near the Plaza del Pilar. I made a note. The next day, I went to see her. Marta was an attentive young woman with a clear vision. I showed her the document. She read it carefully, without saying anything. When she finished reading, she looked up and told me plainly that if even one doctor certified that I had cognitive impairment, Bruno could use that power to make decisions for me. I closed my eyes. Everything started to fall into place. The phrases they used, the looks they gave me, were not made up on a whim. They were already talking like bosses. In the middle of the morning, as I was sipping coffee on the porch and trying to think of something, a notification came. It was a red tag on Instagram, a post from Iria. When I opened it, I saw a panoramic video of my own living room. My curtains, my shelves, my plants. The camera was rotating slowly, and soft instrumental music was playing, like the one played for insurance or birth announcements. The printed message read, saying goodbye to Grandma's house and welcoming a new milestone as a family. I didn't know whether to scream or laugh. I slammed the phone down. My jaw hurt from inadvertently clenching the phone. Not even 2 hours had passed when Bruno emailed me, with the subject, "Comfortable and stress-free transition." There was a deceptive calm in his voice, as if a raging storm lurked behind every word, setting my heart on fire with restlessness. As if that promise, so gentle and alluring, was plotting to push my future into a furnace of unknown pain. I opened an attached PDF. It contained a calendar with suggested dates, a list of furniture to be removed before the end of the month, and a heartfelt note thanking her for my continued cooperation. I hadn't spoken to her since lunch. I hadn't even said yes. We hadn't said a word about moving house, but plans were already behind schedule. That same afternoon, Iria arrived unannounced. She came in with her spare key and a soft hello from the hall. She found me in the kitchen with an unwashed mug. She walked around the house as if she'd been hired to be a decorator. She touched furniture, opened cabinets, and said things like, "Can we keep this? Or doesn't this black furniture go with the crib?" I didn't say anything. I just followed her quietly, as if she weren't intruding on my home, as if the ground wasn't shaking under my feet. When she entered the bathroom, she left. An open bag lay on the couch. I reached for it, gasping for breath. Inside was a thick manila folder. I opened it. It contained printed maps of my house, handwritten notes, taped-together paint samples, and an estimated budget titled, Muriel Camarina Project Comprehensive Renovation Level 1. I carefully sealed everything again. By the time he left the bathroom, I had made up my mind. If they were planning on passing the house off as their own, it better not be theirs. When I returned from shopping, I saw it folded neatly on the doormat, with no return address or stamp on it. A beige envelope made of thick cardboard, too formal to be a coincidence. I picked it up without opening it, as if I thought it would ruin me. Reaching inside, with dry hands and bare feet, I opened it on the kitchen table. The text was brief, but weighed like a rock. Preliminary consent for a voluntary family session. The title in beautiful letters. 2 stamped signatures, Bruno Camarina and Iria Muriel. Date and initials. A third blank space awaited me. My name written in machine letters, with a light gray line. A contract with no emotion, no humanity, not a single handwritten word. A note was attached. "Dear Mother, all that is missing is your signature, so we can proceed with the banking process. Thank you for your generosity, as always." My generosity. What a simple word. Without thinking, I called Marta. I sent her a picture of the document. It took her exactly 3 minutes to call me back. Her calm but urgent voice instructed me not to sign it, not to leave it on a table, not to scan it, and not to even mention it. "Abelina, if your signature ever appears on that paper, you will lose all legal protection. They are creating a history of consent. You have to start protecting yourself now." Her voice was shaking, too. It was not the first time I had seen something like this. I hung up the phone and was left alone in the kitchen, the paper still open in front of me. I stared at it for a long time, not tearing it up. I burned it with a match in the sink and watched the flames consume the beautiful title, the hastily written signatures, and the lies hidden in the name of courtesy. Then I turned on the tap and watched the ashes scatter, without any shape. Bruno and Iria wanted to kick me out of that house. Maybe it was time for me to give them what they wanted, but in my own way. And for that, I needed a silent plan, starting with protecting me instead of protecting the walls. 2 days after I burned the contract, I called Donato. I had known him since Bruno was a child, when we still sat at the table signing papers with a pen and coffee. A retired notary, he lived in a simple apartment in Delicious, surrounded by old books and a parrot that talked more than he could speak. I told him everything clearly. His silence was so long that I felt as if the line had gone dead. "I'll help you," he finally said. But it had to be done quickly and without a trace. He knew smart buyers, serious people, who would pay cash and ask no questions. No ads, no digital storefronts, just calls, coffees, and handshakes. I agreed, without thinking. I didn't want to fight for that house. I wanted to get out of there before they realized they'd never have it. That same night, I spoke to Noelia. She gave me her storage room to put boxes in and introduced me to a trustworthy man who would remove things without a bill. I made it clear to her that nothing was to be a surety. No big boxes, no vans, just borrowed things that would slowly disappear. I also asked her for help finding something far away, something of my own. She was the one who mentioned the cabin, a small house by a lake in the province of Teruel, with a thick garden and old tiles. The owner was a widower and was looking for a smaller house. I saw it on a video call, and I had a peace of mind I hadn't felt in years. A green-tiled kitchen, wooden windows, an iron stove. I bought it without haggling. I just asked that my name not be revealed to anyone. Slowly, I began to take out the precious things. Childhood photos, pottery from my husband's workshop, a few books, a set of porcelain cups. I packed everything in unlabeled gray boxes, like someone going on a trip. I left an empty suitcase open in the hallway. If Iria or Bruno came in unannounced, they would think I was preparing for a short vacation. Let them think. While they were thinking about putting up new curtains, I was no longer thinking about curtains. I was thinking about how to disappear without them knowing when and how. I saw her arrive unannounced one Saturday morning, as had become the norm. Her smile was sweet. One hand was holding a prenatal drink, the other was placed dramatically on her slightly swollen belly. I can't wait to see my son running down this aisle, Abelina said, stepping forward as if it was all her own. I said nothing, just kept watching. Iria had played the role of the pregnant mother perfectly. She spoke in a sweet, measured voice, as if talking to an invisible camera. She touched the old furniture with a mix of feigned nostalgia and hidden ambition. She stroked the back of my mother's rocking chair. She lingered near the closet, where she still kept my handwritten prescriptions, recording videos for her followers.
Just as she said.
I nodded dryly, as if her performance didn't hurt, but it did. It hurt to watch her pose with family photos, talk about the baby's room, and point to the room where my husband had died. Her disrespect, her audacity, hurt me deeply. More than any betrayal. Can I use the bathroom? My voice came out shaking, every word laced with desperation and discomfort. A storm was brewing, as if my soul was gathering all its agony in that small demand. As if that question was not just a permission, but the last cry of my broken heart, which was tearing the silence of that moment. She asked without waiting for a response. As soon as I heard the door close, I went to her purse, which she had carelessly left on the sofa. I usually don't do that, but now there was no normality between us. I opened it quickly because I knew exactly what I wanted. There was the ultrasound, the same picture I had posted a few weeks ago with a silly caption, but it had neither name, nor date, nor medical center. It was a normal printout, like the one you get when you search for 12-week ultrasound online. It also had a small watermark in the corner. I picked it up, remembered it, and put it back where it was supposed to be. When she came out of the bathroom, I gave her tea and pretended that I didn't know anything. She continued her show, and an expression so intense it was almost sarcastic. On the other hand, I was just thinking about what would happen next. She was about to receive a more real surprise than her pregnancy, and I was almost ready to give it to her. At the end of a cold, witnessless morning, the signing took place in Donato's secret office. He offered me a cup of coffee, as he used to do on days when our lives were slower. I signed without hesitation, with a firm hand. I didn't look back, neither to the past, nor to the near future, only to the paper that set me free. From then on, every step was taken with great thought. I canceled my water, electricity, and gas services before the effective cutoff date. 2 days later, I sent my mail to the post office box I opened in Teruel. I quietly called a trusted courier and took out everything I really cared about. Photo albums, Damien's letters, and a box of notebooks in which I had written my most intimate thoughts for years. Everything else I left quietly. Empty cabinets, empty pantries. The walls themselves began to breathe, as if the house already knew it was about to wake up in someone else's hands. The night before leaving, when I was trying to sleep but couldn't, a message arrived from Bruno, a short text, but full of that superiority disguised as concern. "Mom, don't do anything weird. The house is ours. We'll talk about it soon." "Okay." I stared at the screen for several minutes. I didn't respond. At 5 in the morning, when the streets were still asleep and the sky was lifeless, I closed the front door. I didn't slam it shut. I didn't leave the keys on the table. I didn't record a message or make a big fuss about it. I just stuck a note on the hall wall. "Whatever's left here is no longer mine." I got in the car without looking back. I drove slowly, feeling the weight on my shoulders lighten with every mile away from that house. I was free, and soon they would know it. It didn't take them 24 hours to realize it. My phone was constantly vibrating, even though that number was no longer my main line. Bruno and Iria reacted just like Marta and I. We had expected it with great fanfare. Social media was full of carefully edited posts. Iria was crying in front of the empty porch. Bruno was holding her hand with a sad face, and there were messages written in a pathetic voice. We were homeless, and our baby was about to arrive, and all because of a selfish and unexpected decision. Distant relatives, old neighbors, high school classmates. Everyone had their say. Many had their opinions. Some even left angry comments. How could a mother do that? I said nothing. I didn't post a word, didn't call anyone to explain, no explanations, no denials, just silence. But silence doesn't mean absence. Every post, every story, every screenshot was carefully archived. Marta had prepared an encrypted folder for me, and I put everything there, not out of vengeance, but as a precaution. The world can move at its own pace. I moved at my own pace. Meanwhile, in Marta's office, I signed a new version of my will. Everything, every euro of what was left, every account, every future income, would go to a special trust run by an organization that helps older women who have been victims of domestic abuse. It wasn't a malicious act, it was a closure, because I understood that this wasn't about saving the house or making the final decision. It was about making a peace that no one could take away from me. And that peace began with the realization that for the first time in years, every decision was mine. Outside, the campaign of slander continued its work. I continued my work, and when I looked out the window of my little cabin, where the lake radiated a calm blue light, I realized that I didn't have to explain anything to anyone anymore. There was just one last step left to let me go. I didn't hear the car, but I did hear footsteps on the gravel, as if someone didn't want to disturb anyone, but knew they were trespassing. I barely peered through the linen curtains. It was them, Bruno and Iria, dressed as if they were coming from a function. He was wearing a navy blue blazer, she a light-colored dress, and her belly was slightly bulging with pillows. They were holding a bottle of wine and a box of chocolates, which I had never liked. "Mom," my voice trembled, each word a storm of love and pain, as if my heart was breaking in that one cry. "We just want to talk." My words cut through the air, drowning in a flood of tears and unspoken yearning, as if the whole world could hear our distress at that moment. Bruno raised his voice towards the closed door. I didn't respond. I stood still behind the curtain, watching their faces, understanding their expressions. Iria made a face of artificial tenderness and said sweetly, "We can't let the child grow up without his grandmother, can we?" I didn't make any gestures or sounds, just took a deep breath and took a step back. I saw them trying to smile without any reason, as if they knew someone was watching their performance. They stood there pretending to be at ease for a while, until Iria, who had grown even more impatient, raised her voice and shouted, "Are you leaving your grandson outside like a dog? You're selfish." I didn't move at all. I knew there was no baby. I knew this was all part of a phony attempt to get back something that was no longer theirs. I didn't open it, didn't explain, didn't cry. The next day, when I went to the mailbox, I found a package inside. An ultrasound framed with a light blue bow. The same fake photo from weeks before, and a neatly written note. "We can start over." I returned home with the photo under my arm, placed it on the table, looked at it for a few seconds, and put it in the folder where the rest of the evidence was already kept. Then I opened my phone, looked for their contacts, and deleted them one by one. The screen was clear, like the wind blowing in through the window, like a cabin at dawn, like the time had come to write the closure I had denied for so long. The morning dew touched my feet as I walked barefoot through the garden that bloomed freely without orders or demands. The ground was still damp from the night's rain, and the scent of rosemary and banderlog beckoned to me like an old, forgotten perfume. On the wooden table in the veranda lay a folder sealed by a notary. The foundation is officially registered. It is called Abelina Home Network. Marta handled everything so skillfully that I will never be able to express my gratitude to her. She told me this firmly over the phone. Neither Bruno nor Iria will be able to challenge anything. What I built with my own hands, what I suffered silently, what was taken away from me without permission. Now it has a new purpose. The property is secure. There will be no more demands, no more pressure, no more yelling for favors. The cabin is mine, but it also belongs to my silence, to my hours of sewing, to the recipes I make for no one, to the songs I hum without any reason. I sit in the hammock with hot coffee in my hand. My mobile is vibrating. It's a message, my Aunt Niece says. I saw what you did. You are brave. I hope I can be that strong one day. I read it twice, then close my eyes. For a moment, I thought of responding with advice or a warning, but I simply wrote, "You are you. Just don't let them forget you." That night, I didn't turn on the TV, and I kept music playing in the background. I didn't need to. I slept with the window open, letting the breeze and the gurgling of the lake in. For the first time in years, the silence didn't bother me. She didn't yell at me about what was lost. She didn't remind me of what was gone. On the contrary, she hugged me. And when I fell asleep, I was sure that I hadn't lost anything. She had just left what was no longer for me. Yes. When I opened my eyes in the morning, a light golden light was scattered in the room. The first rays of the sun were shining on the lake outside the window, and the water was rippling as if someone had placed a light smile on it. I took a deep breath and felt that the burden inside me had become much lighter now. The silence, which once scared me, had now become a symbol of peace for me. I got up, went to the kitchen, and made coffee. Every sip felt like the taste of a new beginning. I opened the notebook kept on the table and for the first time started writing my thoughts without any fear or pressure. My words were connecting me to myself. I wrote, "I am here, and that is enough." I was busy doing small tasks throughout the day. I watered the plants, turned the pages of a book, and promised myself that I will now cherish every moment. In the evening, I went for a walk on the lakeside. The cool breeze was touching my cheeks, and the laughter of children was echoing in the distance. At that moment, I understood that losing and gaining is not always a matter of things, but of the feeling that fills the heart. At night, when I opened the window again and the air came in, I said to myself, "This is my life. Now I will not mold it to anyone else's definition." And for the first time, I felt that I am truly free.